part of why it felt so human also is because it was a relatively small team behind it in general. It was largely led by the duo band Yacht. But then they had a very small production team and amazing costume designers and writers and all that sort of thing. But I was able to speak to them a little bit about the game, and they were doing some really like loving homages to old television, which is also something I really love about it. Jonah, one of the members of Yacht, was going through like old TV guide forums and finding like weird music from the TV guide station and stuff to riff on. Like it really does have that human touch in every way, and it's absolutely incredible.
It reminded me a tiny bit of Immortality, which is another game about storytelling through video clips.
Yes.
I think that's a really interesting, as we look at things being more and more interactive all the time, the more passive viewing and narration through that becomes an interesting way to do a game.
Yeah, 100%. I remember the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, is this a game? And then I was like, why not? Why isn't it a game? I'm using my brain to connect it. And I love that we're representing in these nominees such like a wide idea of what a game can be. And I think you see that across a lot of categories. And speaking of categories, let's talk about the big one, because I think everyone is excited to see kind of Game of the Year this year. I think we have a really, really neat selection of games. Game of the Year is always a tough category. If you ever have had to put together a Game of the Year field or vote on a Game of the Year field, like 8 slots, which is what we have this year, is not enough. Like 10 slots isn't enough. There's just so many fantastic games that do different things. We had 8 slots. So the nominees this year for the Big Apple Award for Best Game of the Year are Blueprints, Split Fiction, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Despelote, Sword of the Sea, Silent Hill F, Hades 2, and Ghost of Yotai. All really, really cool games. Excited about all of them in here for very different reasons. Luis, what stands out to you in here? We talked about Despelote a little bit, but what else in this category kind of speaks to you?
Hades 2. It's one of those games where you could argue it's perfect when it comes to like its gameplay loop and its design. And I mean, it's just like Hades more. Like it's Hades 2, right? Like it fits within the name. It's great. And honestly, kind of similar to what we were discussing earlier about Nintendo. It's like it's also kind of a victim of its own success in the same that it's so good, it's so competent that you kind of lose track of like the artistry like behind it, right? Because it's essentially you're not underdogs anymore, right? Like for Supergiant, Hades was like this huge breakout game for them. You know, the other games were successful, but not to the level of Hades. Nintendo, right? Similar way. The Switch was like, depending how you want to frame the narrative, it was like a do or die moment for the company in a way. So Hades really like excels, and I know there was some initial controversy like within the game when it's released, but it really speaks like for like itself, and it's like its general like it's an innovative, right? It's doing something new. No, but what it's doing, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely nails it. Yeah, and also on that note of like sequels that I think do kind of like affirm 2 very well. I do personally like Ghost of Yotai, in terms of it being a big craft piece that almost feels like an old Hollywood epic. It's like you look at those landscapes and it feels like looking at a matte painting from an old movie. Like it's our most nominated game this year, I think, for 4 awards, I believe, for Ghost of Yotai. And like it makes sense to me because it's a lot of those craft categories, like music and world. I think, I can't remember. I should remember that. But acting, I know for sure. Really, really cool game. I dig it as well. Dan, what in this category do you want to shout out, or any trends that you notice in the category that you want to talk about? However you want to take that.
It's interesting. I gotta put my thumb on the scale for Blueprints, which appealed to me initially because it's got a real sort of tabletop gaming vibe to it, and I love that concept of taking the almost like the room tiles and putting them down, just like you're playing like a mystery tabletop game, and the fact that you're making it's a roguelike game, but you're not really making a ton of obvious progress from one run to the other. It's just more like it's as New Yorkers, it's kind of like when somebody's having an apartment showing in your building or in your neighborhood and you go check it out, even though you have no intention or ability to buy or rent that apartment. You just want to kind of see how other people live. That's what Blueprints is.
That's an amazing description, and I 100% agree with that. I love that game. I love that game a lot. I'm happy to see it represented. Carolyn, what do you got?
I mean, we did touch on Split Fiction a bit earlier, but I want to just again shout out like what a remarkable kind of it's almost like a kind of sampler platter in a way for like some of the breadth of experiences and worlds and things that video games can take us to, and highlights how much better those can be, of course, when they are shared. The finale of this game in particular on a technical level is just like it's just a tour de force of design and technical prowess. And this is a game that I think, I mean, a lot of people have said, oh, well, like parents playing it with their young kids, or maybe people playing it with their partner who isn't routinely into video games. I think it's one of those games too that really deserves praise for being a game that is accessible immediately and kind of can bring people who maybe tend to look at games from a bit of a remove, can kind of bring them into the fold a bit and help them experience some of why we all love this medium so much.
I previewed Split Fiction before it was announced last year, before the Game Awards, and Joseph Ferris showed me the game, and I have this memory of him showing me the part that I could talk about, and then he was like, hey, don't write about this, but I'm just going to show you the ending of the game. Like, don't tell anyone about this. And he showed me the entire ending of the game, and I was like, why are you doing this? Why would you show this to me right now? And he was like, don't tell anyone about it. Because he just knew, like, that ending was phenomenal. That's a great shout out. Devin, I know we've covered a lot of ground here and a lot of games that I think you love, but is there anything else you want to shout out here?
Funnily enough, like I was going to say my two favorite from the nominees that we have are Blueprints and Split Fiction. But to sort of add on to that accessibility thing that you were talking a little bit about, Carolyn, like I have a friend who said that Split Fiction is the first game he ever beat with his mom. And I just think that's sort of so indicative of what the game is, where it can still be such a sort of like masterclass, especially I think in like environmental and level design, but still manage to also be accessible enough to someone's mom who is maybe literally never played a video game before. And for me personally, I don't find puzzle games, I'm not a puzzle game girly. They often make me feel stupid. Blueprints also made me feel stupid, but it felt more meaningful to feel stupid because of how it was also so tied into the storytelling and the lore of the world, and it was more actively engaging for me and left me wanting to return even if I did feel dumb, because of that rich storytelling it was doing with zero cutscenes or anything typical that you would think of from a game. And I just thought that was so lovely.
That's a great case for it. It's a great case. And I'll just shout out the other three games in this category that we didn't get around to talking to. Claire Obscure, not much else that has to be said about it. I think we all know, what Claire Obscure does well. It's a fantastic love letter to RPGs that takes this that idea forward a little bit.